Last month, Illinois Central College announced students living on campus would have to go somewhere else next semester. And tonight, the ICC Board of Trustees held a special meeting on student housing. Taylor Fleming was there. Taylor.
Lizzie, during the meeting, we learned the board discovered on-campus student housing would close around the same time the community did, prompting several board members to express frustration with the lack of communication. The Illinois Central College Board of Trustees didn't hold any votes during Thursday night's special meeting, but they did call for regular updates about student housing starting at their next meeting on April 24th.
We have a duty to have as much knowledge as we can. And our questions are not some type of signal to the administration that we don't agree or we're trying to sabotage.
The Board of Trustees had no involvement with the decision to close student housing. On-campus boarding is owned and run by Educational Foundation Student Residence LLC, which is separate from the college. Foundation board members are not appointed by the school. According to an email from ICC President Sheila Quirk-Bailey, state law prohibits community colleges from owning on-campus housing. Trustee Gail Thetford said the board found out that the housing complex would close the same day as the administration's announcement. This prompted a response of anger and confusion toward members of the board.
My housekeeper walks in my door to clean my house and says, "Why did you do this?" I'm like, well, what are you talking about? She's like, I have 2 granddaughters. They wanted to go to ICC next year and live on campus.
President Quirk-Bailey attended the meeting but did not speak. In an email to staff last month, she said she is confident that by working together, administration and staff can ensure a positive outcome for all affected by the closure. ICC administration says the housing complex would need substantial repairs to stay open, including replacing stairs throughout the facility. The LLC group doesn't have adequate funding for this, and they weren't able to get any more money. Back to you, Lizzie.